research community's part. We are already in discussion with him on adapting models for research communities, and in focus is the group on Earth observation to have a regional body for collaboration in Earth observation, like the AfriGeo, it will be ArabGeo, and so on. So, Dr. Haidar, thank you for joining, and we'll see. I'm introducing the speakers together before the session starts. So, if you have anything before we start the session.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here and to see some of the good faces that I used to work with, and I have the honor to know. And I look forward to the meeting. I hope you hear me very well, because I suspect I have a problem with my mic.
It's quite good, audio and so on. It's quite good.
Yeah. Okay.
We can hear you. We can hear you well.
Very well.
So we are still waiting for another speaker. She's from, maybe you know her also, Gergana. She's from RIPE NCC. I think most of you know her. She has been working for RIPE NCC for a while, and I hope she can.
Yousif, while we have a few minutes before we start, do you mind if I just trial sharing my screen just to make sure that it's...
Of course.
Is the sharing working?
Yes, exactly.
So try.
Can you move slides to double check?
All right. Can I just try playing this just to let me know if the sound is playing at your end?
Yes, PRIDA.
So I have two videos actually that I'll be presenting, one on GIGA and the other one on PRIDA. And so for today's session, hopefully I'll be talking about the two ITU projects, which specifically are GIGA and PRIDA, that we're working in terms of connectivity within the region. So that's going to be my discussion.
Both are of interest to us. You are touching exactly what do we need.
I hope so.
Yeah, you are doing that.
I have a lot of numbers, so if we have any statisticians out there, people who like numbers, so I'll be presenting quite a number of numbers that sometimes even I don't understand what they mean, but they're okay.
I know Stephanie can do everything, so you have a good, you have a good statistician, a good inspector.
Don't ask me any mathematic questions.
Dr. Yousif, do you hear me better now? Hello, Dr. Yousif, do you hear me better now?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay, great.
So until we have, I think, 2 to 3 minutes, we'd like to play a short video that was prepared by my colleagues, just a promotional and showing some numbers and so on, until it's time to start the session. And I hope Gergana will join us soon. So you can go ahead with the video, please. I think we are still missing Gergana, but I'm afraid, actually, I'm afraid of something that some people have some confusion in timing. We try to send all the timing and calendar invite and UTC, but I'm not sure if they followed the calendar or followed the time mentioned in the space in the I don't know. So I hope we have more participation. It's not bad. So, and to make use of our time and your time also. Can we start the session? Are you okay? Okay, good, great. So let me welcome you all to this session. Actually, I am not the chair of this session. It should have been chaired by Yousif Asfour. Yousif Asfour is the CEO of Chief Information and Technology Officer of American University at Beirut, and he was one of the, I think, pioneers in and innovators in creating ENDRELs in a different way. I have to be fair in always in mentioning their story. They started with one university, and they rolled out to have a body to start the ENDREL because the complications in various countries are different. So in Lebanon, it was a different story with complications in terms of infrastructure, in terms of policies, in terms of regulation and so on. But they managed to go through around that through building a body that would handle the ENDREL. So so unfortunately, he's unable to join. So I'm just trying to play his role. And I hope I can be efficient and not dictator like some people talk about me. This session is about global support. Why did we take this as a main theme of this session? We tried to see in our work at the Regional Research and Education Network and work closely with National Research and Education Network. So we try to build and sustain infrastructure in terms of technological, in terms of networks, connectivity, and beyond that to provide services. And later on, we would like to provide collaboration tools to enable the collaboration on top of this infrastructure. You know, these are non-profit activities, and many countries have challenges in terms of funding, in terms of political influence, I mean, regulatory and so on, and pricing and all of that. So we try to make this session to see how regional and international organizations can support us at the regional level and at the national level on how we can better support the development of infrastructure and go beyond the infrastructure to the services, which are the ultimate goal to facilitate. You know, you have been hearing about open science, which requires a robust infrastructure with the security, with the availability, and so on. So not to get the introduction. That's our purpose for the purpose for having this session with you, and would like to thank you all in contributing to the quality of this conference. And also, I would like to discuss with you, not necessarily now, but in the very near future, how we can take this from your presentations and your vision and so on to support us either through memorandum of understanding that we have, like what we have done with the ISOC or other means of collaboration. So not to go beyond that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. He is Professor Abdelrahim, His Excellency Professor Abdelrahim Hunaiti. He will be speaking on the role of Association of Arab Universities to support Arab universities in the development of research, teaching, and learning during COVID-19 pandemic, and I think it's also beyond. So, Dr. Abdelrahim, do you like us to share your screen or your slides, or you like to share it by yourself?
Sure.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, should I start, Yousif?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you for hosting us in this very nice conference, which is titled Global Support. Really, we need it here. But, you know, as you see in my lecture, will be about the role of Association of Arab University and support of Arab University to the development of research and teaching and learning during COVID-19 and after. Just to give you a brief about our association, is a non-profit association, consists of a network of around 400 Arab universities from 22 Arab countries.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Abdelrahim, but we can't see your screen, but without slides.
You can't see the slide?
Yes, we can see your screen, but no slides. Now it's okay. Now it's okay.
Okay, now you can see. So
yes.
About the Association of Arab University is a non-profit association consisting of a network of around 400 universities from 22 Arab countries. The Association of Arab University aimed at assisting and coordinating the efforts of Arab University to prepare them to serve their community and seek enhancing cooperation among Arab university as well as university worldwide and also association, different associations. During COVID-19 pandemic and also after that. If a non-profit association successfully reorient themselves to meet today's challenges and deliver values to their members, then they can be very successful in keeping their members and even growing up. So many non-profit associations and organizations are providing a level of online engagement now instead of face-to-face, now all of them almost online engagement by holding different conferences and events through webinars and also changing its style of learning and teaching to distance learning and so on. So now this is in the Association of Arab University, we stress in the importance of the global higher education community in maintaining contact with academia and COVID-19 pandemic crisis affecting regions to help them maintain a minimum level of keeping learning and teaching going on in universities and also in schools. We collaborate with university and country involved in structuring an effective way to keep them going on in response to COVID-19 pandemic crisis. AARU, Arab Association of University, made many efforts, such as hosting workshops, conferences, dissemination of news, event activity to all our members, and also to the media, and to engage them in ongoing activity that relevant to the development of research and also teaching and learning in the time of the crisis of COVID-19 pandemic crisis. As you know, probably, most of Arab universities have replaced face-to-face teaching with distance learning response to the COVID-19 pandemic. This form of distance learning differ from conventional and ordinary distance learning because it happens suddenly, and most of the university are unready for that and forced to implement distance learning without having the infrastructure for that. And also this is not affecting one region and other, but it is constitute a globally concerned phenomena. So the teaching and learning become now a global issue. COVID-19 pandemic distance learning, which I call it CDL, is unique in its philosophy and the procedure, being fundamentally different from typical distance education in several ways. Some of them I took because it's sudden and it is unreadable and implemented very suddenly. So the CDL has been suddenly pushed without the necessary skill and knowledge and employed in most of Arab universities and also the schools with neither prior, no regulation, no preparation. So no regulation, no preparation for this kind of distance learning. In this time, distance learning has become an instructional means for all levels of teaching and learning from all different age groups, starting from kindergarten to doctorate level. So it is currently considered a necessity and a sole means to aid in university and also primary schools to face and avoid the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. So the question or the big question, how we can redirect our efforts to help our members now in this time of the crisis. We've done a lot of things, thinking about hosting webinars, training workshops, and meeting open to entire Arab university to get share their innovative ways and to overcome the challenges facing our members university and keep them engaged and up-to-date and best practice in teaching and learning. Focusing on what really matters to our members in this time, we assess the impact of crisis in our members. So we done a survey in our members university and found out they are in urgent need for a practical guide for the quality of distance learning program they are offering. So some of them, as I said before, they are suddenly shifted to face-to-face, from face-to-face to distance learning without a preparation and without a preparation. So we issue a guide, a practical guide in two languages, in Arabic and in English, and the guide is showing in both languages, Arabic and English, so they get to and being disseminated and distributed all to all our members university to evaluate and see how they are going in distance learning based in performance indicators and good practice. So the objectives of this guide is to improve distance learning outcomes and development the university to do this and build competitive capability for Arab university during this crisis and after, and building bridges between academic and technical cooperation in Arab universities to learn from each other, accelerate the entry of Arab university in academic ranking, especially during this lockdown time. Then adapting international best practices to our members, enhancing social and humanitarian participation and responsibility in order to enhance the reputation of Arab University. contributing to the development of our higher education system by identifying the strengths and improvement needed. We'll talk about the domain of performance indicator of distance learning very briefly now. And the first table shows the indicators of, for the improved quality in designing and developing of study material for distance learning. This is the design of the teaching material to give to the students, and there is an indicator, 8 indicators. You can evaluate them from 1 to 10 and give a grade and see how you are doing to see the point of strength and the points of weakness. The second table about indicator for provide the appropriate technological infrastructure, and this is what needed to deliver the distance learning material to the students in different areas, especially and we have 7 indicator, performance indicator. Again, you can evaluate them and see how we can strengthen. The table number 3 shows the indicator for student support. What does the student need to get in terms of support and services? And here we have 5 indicators. You can evaluate them and see how can be the material reach to the students and dealing with the service of the student. The 4th in the table shows the indicator for quality of faculty members. So a lot of the teachers or a lot of the staff, faculty staffs are not previously trained in distance learning. So the quality of them can be measured based on 7 criteria or based on 7 performance indicators. And a lot of them need to updating their information and training workshops. The last table shows the indicator for evaluating the effectiveness of learning and teaching process. And here we have 9 indicators. So it can be evaluated based on satisfaction of the students and also the faculty staff, and also the exams and how dealing with the problem in these ones. So we have a total of 36 performance indicators to see the quality of distance learning being adapted by most of Arab university and global university. So they can evaluate them and they can be, this is a fast response from our association to deal with the distance learning during COVID-19, and hopefully we'll build that after that, after COVID pandemic, the crisis finished. And thank you very much for your listening. And this is just one of our contribution to the global support for university, and we are doing all our best to help other association and university to get rid of this pandemic crisis as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
That's perfect, Your Excellency. Many thanks for this great. Any question? Any question to Professor Abdelrahim?
Question?
We are ready for a question. 1 or 2 questions. If not, if there is no question, I have a question. I like the policy, the KPIs that you have prepared and so on. Can we? Is it only for the use of university, the association, or the university, or we can disseminate this, for example, to other universities and so on? Is it open or just?
No, it's open. No, this is a practical guide that has been in the website of our association.
Okay.
And it is in both Arabic and English language, so it is open sources can be disseminated to any university in the world. And this is a global contribution from our association to help support global. Thank you.
Great. So we will start collaboration from our side with Association of Arab Universities in disseminating this material, and we will look further to more collaborations. We are starting the collaboration from today.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Excellency. And if you allow me to invite the second speaker, Stephanie Truille. I always have a problem with saying her name. She will be speaking about serving and adapting the needs of African research and education users through AfricaConnect 2 in the COVID-19 context. Stephanie is the International Cooperation Officer at the European Commission. Actually, she's also more than cooperation, she's International Support Officer also, I can call her. So Stephanie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Yousif. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning in some parts of the world, or good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you today. As Yousif introduced me, I work in the European Commission in the Directorate General for International Cooperation and Development, where I'm the project officer for AfricaConnect. So if you allow me, ASREN does cover Arab countries, some of them belonging to North Africa. And I will take you southwards. I will take you to the work that ASREN and its member NRENs in North Africa are doing with their neighbor in the south in Africa. I see you showing the slide. I can also show it if you want, as you wish. So sorry, let me share my screen. Apologies for that. Sorry, it seems to be. So I will take you briefly to what AfricaConnect as a project entails and cover. So AfricaConnect is basically looking at supporting African NRENs and mainly looking to provide them with affordable, high capacity research and education networks, as well as tools to enhance the quality, the availability of research, teaching and learning. AfricaConnect works with 3 regions in Africa. So from north to south, ASREN, WACREN, UbuntuNet Alliance, who are present today in partnership with the Pan-European Research Education Network, GIGA. And AfricaConnect we now in the 3rd phase of AfricaConnect. Africa is a big continent, so there's a lot of work to do to connect as many countries as possible and to update others sometime when capacity is not enough. We're building on the work that was previously carried out on UMED-Connect, which was concentrating on Arab countries, and the previous phases of AfricaConnect. So as you will see, AfricaConnect, that's the map. When I say AfricaConnect covers the whole of Africa, you see the member country in color by region. So ASREN has 4 countries that is covering in North Africa, but it has also some countries with double membership. For instance, also countries that belong to UbuntuNet Alliance like Somalia, Djibouti, Sudan. And we have the Western and Central Network in green, and UbuntuNet, which has an extensive region to cover in orange. So do you see the pictures on the sorry, Yousif, do you see your own pictures on the right hand side of the screen or not? Do you see this?
Yes, I can see. Yes.
Okay. So just to illustrate very briefly the impact of AfricaConnect so far. So since we started as a Pan-African with a Pan-African perspective, we have now 19 out of 38 African NREN that are connected to their regional network, UbuntuNet, WACREN, and ASREN. And through the connection to their regional network, they are interconnected. They are connected to the GIGA European network and to any research education network in the world. So you can see the gradual increased coverage of the linkage of the links that are being developed. This is still work in progress because as I speak, more links are being deployed. But we usually tend these days to show this map, which gives an idea with 19 countries and regions in Africa that are connected through their regional and interconnected with one another and with the world. We serve over 1,600 institutions in Africa and millions of students and researchers. As you can see, Eastern and Southern Africa is more extensively covered because under AfricaConnect, that the work in this region has started before the others. But if we zoom in on ASREN North African country, that's the situation we have. We have Algeria that is being connected as we speak, or was connected over the recent days at the link of 10 gig from a previous 2.5 gig link, and Tunisia, Morocco that are currently being served through a GRE solution. Yousif?
Just sorry for interruption, but actually what we can see is maybe the way you are viewing your Zoom is viewing all panelists. So if you can just have it, because we are losing part of your slides. I think it's the same at your screen.
Yes.
If you can just make the view on the speaker view, then I think it will be better.
Yes, if I manage to do that, sorry.
Just go to the view and select speaker view.
Like this? No.
Yeah.
Like this?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, sorry for that.
Thank you.
The plans that are moving ahead is to connect Tunisia and Morocco through a 1 gig dedicated link. So that's the situation we have in North Africa. As you can see, those links connect the countries to Europe, GIGA and POPs, but that way the Arab countries are also interconnected through Europe. For the time being, it's not a backbone that serves the Arab country with one another directly. So my point today is to make you understand. It very much resonates with what I heard Luis mention this morning in the global session, the fact that the work needs to go beyond connectivity. So what I've been illustrating is the deployment of connectivity broadband in Africa. But recently, when we approved AfricaConnect 3, we said, well, providing adequate bandwidth connectivity is the basis, but there are other elements that need to be taken into account. So that's why we have several outputs in the project: access to affordable and adequate e-infrastructure, and that's what I've been showing. But we said this is not taking us any closer to the impact that we were seeking if there's no dedicated services that are deployed on those infrastructure, or if the adequate human resource capacity is not built. So that's why I briefly want to take you to the fact that on top of the connectivity, the AfricaConnect partners, ASREN, WACREN, and UbuntuNet, are very engaged in providing, developing, and I mean, first they've been looking and asking their user community through surveys what were their main needs, the key priorities, and that's why they're now providing proactive cybersecurity, trust and identity services, federated identity management, and in particular, there's a very successful example of activities for which WACREN is in the lead with libraries to build a community for open science. Cloud services, which are getting increasingly important, not to say that there's no commercial solutions available, but you know that in the research and education community, what is key is the trust the privacy, the security of the system. So RENs in Africa are looking at deploying those. And we also have service outreach to science community, and there ASREN is playing a key role in reaching out to centers in Africa that work on Earth observation, astronomy, to see how they can work with their respective NRENs. So that's services that are being provided as we speak. And there's also a key element of building the capacities under the label that is called Africa Training Initiative for Research Education Network. So the AfricaConnect partners organize very successful and usually oversubscribed training activities in many aspects, from network operation management, cloud, identity service. They carry out research and science access. And I would like also to congratulate them for looking more specifically into making women dedicated activities, which are having a huge success as well. And then COVID. So that was the work as it was planned. What I'm describing was a work that was ongoing, the work that was planned and already ongoing, and the AfricaConnect by the project partners. And then this year happened, and we've been extensively describing the situation. So I will not go into the details, but we know there's been a lockdown and closure of research education institutions to contain the spread of the virus. Some reopened, others not. But there was initially an unpreparedness to shift to online learning collaboration, even though we've seen, and we just had a very clear demonstration from the Association of Arab University that people are building tools as we speak to be efficient and to be useful in this new context. But initially there was a lack of devices, content, skills, broadband connectivity, at the same time as there was an explosion of the needs and of the demand. So we've seen the quality of service that deteriorated initially, and being from the development department of the European Commission, what we're very concerned about is to see that the principle of universal and inclusive education has been undermined by unequal access, in particular in Africa, where we cannot assume that everyone has access to adequate digital tools. So here, just to illustrate, and I just took a very few examples, there are many across Africa, but I took a few examples of ASREN or Arab countries example of how NREN have worked to support their research education community. So this morning at Tunisia, in partnership with the ministry, has set up tools, video conferencing, a learning platform, and they engaged with telecom operators. We also had in Morocco, in partnership with the ministry, Marwan hosted an online learning platform with over 3,000 courses available that are used by 500,000 Moroccan students on a daily basis. Somalia has rolled out a video conferencing platform. We have many examples across Africa, from Western Africa. We mentioned this morning, Dr. Boubacar Bari mentioned the fact of engaging with telecom operators or building tools. We have also example Ubuntunet Alliance from Zambia to Kenya. So what I'm done here, I'm just concluding. What I'm trying to indicate is that for long, research education network, be it at national or research or regional level, have been serving and accompanying the needs of the users. It used to be mainly broadband connectivity, then it proved critical to move into deploying services and building the capacities. And they were doing that already. It's not because of COVID. What has possibly changed with COVID is that now there's a big focus. Now people are getting interested in what NREN doing, but that NREN remain anyway connected to serve the needs and to adapt with the needs of the user community. And if you allow me to finish, I would quote the words of our virtual host, Professor Habib Yousif from CCK, who said, CCK will strive to make sure that no student is left out, particularly for more disadvantaged areas, and to facilitate the continuity of education for all through remote learning. And I'm sure the same can be said from many NCO across Africa and the world. And that's why we need to support the work, and that's why the EU remains committed to support them. Thank you.
Well, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Stephanie. I think you even put some basis for better understanding the concept of research and education networks. Thank you for that. And any question to Stephanie at this time? Okay, if no questions, let me continue with the session. I would like to invite my new friend, Dr. Adel Darwish. He's the regional director of the ITU office for the Arab region in Cairo, Egypt. So I would like to welcome him again, and we already started discussing how we can further collaborate. Dr. Adel will be speaking about ITU internet connectivity projects, GIGA, and PRIDA. I would like to leave the floor to you, Dr. Adel.
Thank you, Yousif, and it's great to be here amongst colleagues talking about a very critical matter, I believe. Maybe the most important pillar for all of us in 2020 has been connectivity. At personal levels, at corporate levels, connectivity has always been a key. And I'm glad to see Stephanie's presentation, and it's more or less in line with what I'll be presenting as well. And we support what His Excellency Abdelrahim Hunaiti mentioned at the beginning, and how we would like to further support the communities at different levels to be connected, to be involved, and to be included, which brings me to the UN Secretary General's direction, nobody left behind. So that's very key and important for us. Allow me to start my presentation by, let me share my screen, please. So I hope you can see my screen. Yes, okay. So first of all, thank you for having me. As some of you may know, I've recently been appointed as the Director of the Regional Office of the International Telecommunications Union in the Arab region. I'm pretty new at this post, so for me on a personal level, there's a lot to learn. And it's really exciting to see all these communities supporting and building activities that's going on at multi levels, not just the ITU. In today's presentation, like my colleague Yousif mentioned earlier on, I'll be talking about internet connectivity and the state of the current play. I'll share some statistics with you about what's going on. I'll talk about GIGA, connecting every school to the internet. And I'll be talking about policy and regulatory initiative for digital Africa, or what's called PRIDA. So I'll start with the internet connectivity. An estimate 4.1 billion people are using the internet as per the facts that we have or the surveys that were collected in 2019, reflecting a 5.3% increase compared to 2018. The global penetration rate has increased from nearly 17% in 2005 to over 53% in 2019. In recent years, though, the global market and growth rates have not been as high as a decade ago because some parts of the world are reaching saturation levels. I'm also sure that you would agree with me at this point that this graph, where it stands at 2019, although this is based on estimates as well, the actual graph after we get the 2020 results as well on where the connectivity and the penetration is, should actually look a bit higher and steeper than this, because there has been a lot of growth in terms of need from individuals and corporates and communities to be connected. But still, this resembles that almost half of the global population still remains unconnected, and that is a concern. Internet usage keeps growing, but barriers lie ahead, and we need to work collaboratively in demolishing these barriers. When we look at developing countries, most people are online, with close to 87% of individuals using the internet. If we look at the LDCs, or least developed countries, only 19% of individuals were online in 2005, compared to around 87% in developed countries. And if I may, in this slide, put a little bit focus on the region that I work with, which is the Arab States region. The Arab States is almost halfway there. So we're around 52% in terms of connectivity and penetration. The digital gender gap is growing in countries. Unfortunately, in recent years, we've seen that the gap has increased rather than it's been decreased. In 2019, the digital gender gap was 24% compared to 19% in 2013. In all regions of the world, more men than women are using the internet. The gap is small in developed countries and large in developing countries. And this is an area that, as the ITU, we have been very active in projects like the Equals and Girls in ICT Days, and trying to ensure that when it comes to ICT and the field and the mandate of the ITU, we support our membership, whether it's the member states or other memberships, in order to reduce this gap amongst the genders. When I talk about the ITU targets, of course, the Connect 2020 agenda was adopted by the 2014 plenipotentiary of the ITU, which took place in Dubai. Strategic plan for 2016 and 19 was at the heart of the agenda, with 4 main goals. And I'm only presenting 2 of them here, but if I may say, these 4 goals were growth, inclusiveness, sustainability, and innovation. If I talk about goal 1, and which has a direct connection to connectivity, the goal was by 2023, 70% of individuals worldwide will be using the internet. Now, if you look at 2019, we are still at 54%, which means we still have quite a number of effort and activities that we need to do to reach the 70% goal that we would like to achieve. Internet access should be 25% more affordable, and this is compared to the baseline year of 2017. When we look at goal 2 of the International Telecommunications Union, bridging the digital divide and providing broadband access to all by 2023, 60% of individuals in the developing world will be using the internet. At the moment, 2019 figures show at 47%. We hope that in 2020, these figures are actually higher. 30% of individuals in the least developed countries, or LDCs, households should have access to internet. As per the 2019 figures, again, that stands at 19%. And we just looked at the gender equality in internet usage and mobile phone ownership, which was presented in the earlier slide. And a note or a quote from the ITU Secretary General, Mr. Howlin Zhao: as the world recovers from and adjusts to new normal created by COVID-19 pandemic, ITU is mobilizing around the United Nations call to build back better. As the UN Specialized Agency for Information and Communication Technologies, we are now more than ever committed to bring the benefits of these technologies to people everywhere. And this is something that we've been looking forward at HQ and regional office levels of the International Telecommunications Union, and in collaboration with our regional and national partners. Moving on to GIGA. I once had a question, somebody asked me, what does GIGA stand for? I don't believe it stands for anything in particular, but I think it's a catchy name that resembles a very important aspect, which is connecting every school to the internet. And it's in partner with our UN sister UNICEF as well. Connecting every school to the internet and every young person to information, opportunity, and choice. This is the main objective of the GIGA project. GIGA project works as a convener. Of course, this is an initiative launched by by UNICEF and ITU jointly. The joint collaboration looked at fundraising and supporters for this project. And we had Norway, Finland, Denmark, and USAID, amongst others, that contributed or are actually looking at contributions towards this project as well. The project identified, if you like, quick start countries where we thought that there is a quick need and that can be addressed in a short manner until we develop this further. First round included countries like Rwanda, Kenya, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, El Salvador, and Honduras. Second round, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Dominica, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent. Now, I must say that the project has been running across both rounds at the moment, so we have not fully completed from round one, but we've started with round two as well, trying to target as much as possible during this COVID-19 pandemic that's going on. And we've had great support from providers and partners around the world, whether it's MNOs, ISPs, satellite companies. They have been of great help and enablers for the GIGA projects and supporting us or helping us in developing the policies and regulations and establishing best practices for these connectivity projects that we're working on. GIGA is made up of four main pillars. The first is map every school's connectivity. Second is financial connectivity or financing the connectivity. Third is connecting every school, and then empowering the young people. Mapping every school builds on the ITU broadband map. When it comes to finance, we identify the investment gaps based on actual collected data that we have from the projects that we're doing, and act as an intermediary to qualify for projects and strengthen the investment case, including de-risking and ensuring effective implementation of the project at the national level. Connect, we determine affordable and sustainable connectivity solutions, i.e. the technologies, the required regulations and the businesses and so forth, and provide tools for governments to oversee the implementation of the GIGA project at national levels. This also includes establishing KPIs for networks, data security, data rate, and so forth. And last but not least of that, the empowerment is creating a repository of digital public goods for e-learning and skills development space. GIGA, of course, currently is working with 11 countries to connect over 86,000 schools and more than 25.8 million students and teachers. If I may present a short 2 or 3 minute video about our efforts in the Eastern Caribbean, Central Asia, and Sub-Saharan Africa, and other regions are to come. So if I may just put the video on here.
The OECS Commission is pleased to partner with UNICEF and the International Telecommunications Union to deliver this timely digital transformation program. The COVID-19 pandemic has made GIGA even more relevant as we seek to bridge the digital divide and empower teachers, students, and families to use technology to enhance the delivery of education and the continuity of teaching and learning.
Our collaboration has laid the groundwork, and we will continue our work together toward closing the digital divide in our region and offer opportunity and choice for every young person.
Through GIGA, we're therefore delighted to partner with the OECS Secretariat, UNICEF, and other key partners in industry to expand school connectivity in the Eastern Caribbean and close the digital divide between rural and underserved areas to ensure that young people will be well equipped with the digital skills that they need to shape their futures in this internet age.
Thank you for that. Let me go back to my slides, just making sure that the next video doesn't play here in the background while I'm speaking. Of course, with the GIGA project, it's always, we look at possible collaboration and cooperation with AfricaConnect or even other partners. And the Arab region is gonna host an information session next year for the Arab countries, Arab member states on this particular aspect. We know that in the region, there are countries that are well developed when it comes to connectivity for schools, but yet there are other countries that seek better opportunities to do that. We've already had some interest from countries such as Iraq and Palestine, and we look forward to getting more engaged at the Arab level on projects related to GIGA as well. Moving on to my next slide. I'll be talking about the PRIDA project, which stands for, actually, the PRIDA stands for something. It's Policy and Regulatory Initiative for Digital Africa. PRIDA, of course, is a joint initiative by the EU, African Union, and the ITU. And for us in the Arab region, the Northern African Arab countries do benefit from this project. And we're proud to have our brothers and colleagues in the ITU regional office in Africa, mainly leading this project with support from us at the Arab regional office. The objective, of course, is to foster universally accessible and affordable broadband across the continent. Duration 42 months when it started, but it was extended by 12 months again due to COVID and due to the pandemic and the delays that we faced as a part of that. The budget for this was around 8 million euros. And it's a shared budget between the European Union as well as the ITU pitched in part of this budget. PRIDA as a whole project has 3 parts, and the ITU is mainly participating or supporting in one aspect of it. So the 3 aspects are spectrum harmonization, which the ITU is quite heavily involved with, policy, legal and regulatory harmonization, and internet governance, both which are led by the African Union. As a part of track 1, which is the scope of the project for the International Telecommunications Union, we look at spectrum harmonization, the licensing and pricing aspects of the spectrum, cross-border coordination, and as well, a part of it related to Internet of Things and how that would work as a part of this connectivity project. Outcomes of the project are mainly guidelines and roadmaps for the membership in the region, training and workshops and conferences. Of course, there were a lot of planned workshops for 2020. All this has gone online thanks to the tools that we now have of having online and virtual meetings. And as well as direct technical assistance has been there, but on a limited basis during the past. but we hopefully look forward that in 2021, we'll have more of this direct technical assistance by sending our experts within the member states to actually support on ground with the activities going on in relation to PRIDA. And if I may also present another video before I conclude, sorry for taking long of your time. My next video is going to be about the PRIDA project. Here we go.
Wireless broadband connectivity is critical for Africa's development and economic growth. It brings access to education, health, and e-government, enables e-commerce and online banking, while small businesses or farmers can reach new markets. That's why our goal at PRIDA is universally accessible and affordable broadband across Africa. PRIDA is a joint action by the European Union, the African Union, and the International Telecommunication Union. The part of PRIDA which is led by the ITU brings all spectrum regulatory agencies in Africa to work together on key spectrum issues. Their aim is to provide mobile broadband access to all. Mobile devices, TV, satellite communications and wireless broadband use frequencies called radio spectrum. Radio spectrum is managed by different agencies at the international and national levels. Some of the frequency ranges needed to make 4G and 5G a wide reality across Africa are now also used by other services. PRIDA will work with all countries to ensure that the necessary frequencies are available. Taking 4G and 5G across Africa will involve substantial investment from mobile operators, who require predictable and transparent license fees for wireless broadband implementation across Africa. PRIDA will help governments to understand the positive economic impact of mobile broadband in order for them to design the best pricing structures. Countries adopting 4G or 5G need to make sure their radio waves don't create interference with other countries. PRIDA is facilitating regional agreements to coordinate the use of frequencies in order to avoid interference. We all share the same goal: universally accessible and affordable wireless broadband for Africa.
And that brings me to the final conclusion. Thank you very much for bearing with me with all the talk that I had to do. One last point I just want to mention is that for a success of any of the projects that I mentioned, whether it's an ITU initiative, whether it's an initiative that is global and we have multi-stakeholders, it's important for us to work collaboratively. It's important for us to have a multi-stakeholder approach. It's important to engage with all levels of the society at national and regional levels. And thank you very much. Yousif, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Adel. First of all, let me congratulate you, ITU, that you are the regional director, because I really like what you have presented and the way you presented. And absolutely, there is a lot of collaboration that we can start, which we already started actually. I would like to open the floor for questions before going to the next speaker. I think my colleague Salim is on the panel. If you would like to have an intervention, Salim. My colleague Salim is the co-director of ASREN.
Thanks Yousif, and thanks Adel for the great presentation. I just asked my question on the chat box. So mainly The challenge that we had in the Asfour region is to find affordable connectivity to the Adrian communities. Even with the co-funding from the European Commission, we had almost seen it sometimes impossible to be able to find connectivity at an affordable price, simply because of monopolies or because of lack of competition in some of the countries. I don't want to be very specific to some countries, but this is a challenge that has been ongoing for us since the past many years. So it has prevented us from being able to contract dedicated capacities even with 1 gigabits per second. We know now 1 gigabits per second, even with the pandemic, is not enough to get the connectivity to the research and education communities across the communities. So we would like to explore with you, especially with ITU. You mentioned about the projects that you're leading. How can we get this affordable connectivity? I mean, is there a way that we can maybe put more investment with the operators so that they can bring connectivity prices down to the competitive prices that we can see in Europe and the US, mainly about €1 per megabit per second per month. But in some countries in Africa and even in the Arab regions, this amount can go to 350 or maybe 400 euros per month per megabit per second.
Thank you, Salim, for that question. Indeed, I think funding is a problem we all face always with big projects. At the moment, what we're trying to do to facilitate this is bring the stakeholders, like I said at the end of my presentation, having all the stakeholders cooperating and working together where you can leverage on reducing certain costs. You cannot have a zero cost project, but we try to show the benefits, utilize fundings from different CSR, if you like, possibilities within the country, within the regional level, get fundings through our other partner UN system as well. As part of the recent UN reform, you must be aware that there's a bigger collaboration going on as well between the UN family as well. So we try to get the stakeholders together. We try to speak to governments to make sure that the costs are reasonable or brought to the lowest possible levels in order to enable the business entities to get more involved, to donate, to have usefulness out of the projects that they carry out with us. I'm more than happy to further explore this with you as well. And like I said, it's a problem we all face. It's not an easy one. It takes some time, but at the end, sitting around the table and discussing it is really the key.
I think one of the problems that we're having is, companies, operators, they're just maybe doubling or maybe tripling the price of connectivity. We have seen it recently, just a few weeks ago, in some of the tendering processes that we're going. We can see, for instance, one offer which is reasonable, but then other offers would be threefold or fourfold. So this is really very problematic in the telecommunication industry. So because you're leading this telecommunication industries across the world, it might be exploring opportunities for collaboration, or maybe just, I don't know, is it going to be regulatory issues, or is it going to be something that you can enforce, or is it to encourage governments to create more opportunities? And this is a big problem for the whole region in Africa. And you mentioned about 54% internet penetration. The problem with this is because of affordability. Companies are not willing to give up their big profits so that they can serve the community. I think this is something very important that ITU can tackle with the governments.
Indeed it is. If I may just clarify one point, Salim, I hope this understanding is clear as well. As a International Telecommunications Union, we support the member states in setting the right policies and regulations by issuing our recommendations. We cannot enforce, if you like, on member states or internal or national regulations on how they deal with pricings at the national level, but we can always facilitate and bring the parties together to sort of find a solution as close as possible.
I'm really sorry for this. Sometimes it's hard to breaking, but I really have to say it. Sometimes even the operators which are government owned are the problematic issues in putting the prices. So even though that I know that you cannot enforce it, but you know sometimes you have a government owned telecommunication operator who's the monopoly, and they're not willing to invest in cabling systems and internet capacities in providing, and this is very problematic. I think this is an issue that needs to be addressed at a very high level. Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
I think Salim's intervention and so on, as I said, we need to sit down, as you already said also, Adel, we need to sit down and see where we can collaborate. Definitely, I think these questions are always complicated to be answered within such kind of. This is the pity that we are not face to face, because if we were there together, then we have a side discussion for 1 hour or 2 hours and finish. But unfortunately, the virtual kind of conferences does not help in this. But we will need to arrange for a meeting based on my email that I sent a couple of weeks ago on potential discussing potential collaboration with each other. So I would like to thank you again. I think I have a question from Shukri. He says, any agreement on harmonizing legislations reached by African states? This is the question, I think it's to Adel.
Yes, thank you. That process is actually ongoing. We have a lot of harmonization going on at the moment. We've not reached the final concluded, if we like, decision on it yet, but it's ongoing. And like I said, this is 42, now it's become what, 56 or 54 months long project. So we're still in the first year, started this year. Hopefully within the coming year or two, we would have more grounds and achievement on this particular project.
Okay, sorry, Adel, one more question. Can you take Mohammed Mabrouk is raising his hand, so if you allow him, give him the floor to ask his question.
Assalamu alaikum. I have a question regarding your GIGA project. Now the classrooms have moved to our living rooms and bedrooms. Did you adjust your program to support the students by getting affordable connectivity at home or affordable devices? I know you are connecting the school to the internet. Now the classroom is there in the living room. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that question. I think with the GIGA project, the focus is more on getting the schools connected at this part of the project. So we haven't, honestly, as part of the focused on the student at home. It's more of getting the schools connected, but I'm sure that we will have that as part of follow-ups on the GIGA project as well.
Yeah, thank you, Adel. I think we need to move ahead with the schedule. Very, very interesting and very fruitful discussions and so on. Now, this next speaker is Dr. Okay. They told me that there is another person. That's Bubakar. I'm sorry, Bubakar. Can you bring him in? Yeah, Bubakar, I'm sorry. I did not notice.
No problem. Please go ahead. I'm writing a question in the Q&A.
Go ahead. You can ask your question.
Don't worry. It was
you share the same concern with us. We are the same in the same level of. So please go ahead.
Don't worry. It was on another matter. So I'm writing it in the Q&A section.
Okay. In this case, allow me to welcome my friend, Dr. Haidar Fraihat. He has been working in Jordan for the National Information and Technology Center, and now he's working with the United Nations ESCWA in Lebanon. He will be speaking with us on behalf of the United Nations ESCWA. It is Economic and Social for West Asia. He's based in Lebanon, and he's a senior innovation and technology advisor. Dr. Haidar?
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be in this important session, and I am very glad to have my ex-boss around there, His Excellency Dr. Abdelrahim Hunaiti, who was the president of my university some quarter a century ago. So I think we are growing old, and I hope that we have gained some wisdom during these long times. Also, I would like to say hi to Adel Darwish, who this is my second meeting with him today. This morning there was another meeting that he was in it. Also, Nermin Saadani, who is a colleague. We used to work a lot on internet governance issues, and I'm very happy to meet new people like Ms. Stephanie and Haidar and the other people in there. I am very happy to present the ESCWA perspective of the story, and I have chosen to present it from an SDG perspective, because the SDG perspective, the SDGs, the 17 SDGs, they have had footprint of science, technology, and innovation, including educational technologies and educational sciences in it. So I will focus on that. And if I may share my screen right now, hopefully, do you see it now? Perhaps now? No, this is something else, it seems, yes. Okay, let me do it again. Stop sharing, and then I will reshare.
If you have problem, you can run the presentation from here.
I will just give it a second, if I may, screen to share. And then just one last chance, please. Not working for some reason. So I hope you can. I hope you can run it from your side.
Yeah, we will run your slides, and you can just ask my colleague to just next, and she will move to the next slide.
Yeah.
I'm sure slide. Can you see the slides, Doctor?
No, not yet. No.
But they are already streamed even.
Not sure
what. Because
okay, now I can see them. Yes.
Perfect. So yeah. you just ask for moving to the next slide, and she will take care.
Thank you very much. So yeah, please go to the next slide. Here I'm going to be talking about the ESCWA has produced what we call it the Arab Sustainable Development Report 2020, and we used to produce one for the previous year and the previous year, and every year until 2030 we'll be producing this report. So my what I did for this event is that basically I looked at the footprint of science, technology, and innovation in the report, and selected these policy advice, the issues, and the policy advice that we can share with you. Our report relies on calculating the averages. We look at the 22 Arab countries altogether. We looked at the structural barriers. We looked at areas where we can provide policy support and policy advice to Arab policymakers, whether they are in governments or whether they are in NGOs or international organizations. Next, please. Yeah, Now, major SDG issues in the Arab world across richer and poorer countries, to our surprise, structural and main barriers are almost the same. So we have 6 GCC countries. We have the Levant, we have North Africa, we have the Nile Valley, we have LDCs in the Arab region among the 22 Arab countries. However, to our surprise, the structural issues are the same, even between rich and poor. We have seen the shrinking civic space. The rentier economy prevails. The unsustainable patterns of resource extractions also prevail. Weak science policy interface also prevail. These are our judgments in our report about the Arab region. Next, please. Okay, now there are 17 goals. I did not choose all of them. I just picked a number, starting with the SDG 4 about education. In the report, we indicated that 16 million children in the region are out of school, including 10% out of primary school. We looked at the proportion of students completing a lower secondary school within a minimum proficiency in mathematics is below 50%. Around 84% of students complete primary school, but less than 40% of them finish upper secondary school. So these are some of the numbers mentioned in our report. More than 18%, more than 18% of the Arab youth are not in employment, education, or training, NEET, not in employment, education, or training. So these are people who are basically either don't have skills, or they are losing skills, or their skills does not meet the requirements of the 21st century that we all live in. Next, please. Now, what the report suggested is to strengthen all disciplines, encourage interdisciplinarity, and prioritize linkages among social science, humanities, sciences, and more technical subjects. Also, for goal 4, suggest to deploy modern data sciences for more timely feedback and relevant evidence. In fact, I personally am quite content about this, because we could see that many of the Arab universities and schools even started to inject in the curricula some modern data science analysis, like using big data and so on. It has started to be there in the curricula in schools and in universities. We started to see many new specializations in data sciences and data analysis in universities. And this is relaxing, but I think we need to do more in this area. Next, please. Now, for the SDG 5 about gender, you know, STEM, the report looked at STEM. Of course, UNESCO is observing STEM applications in curricula in the countries of the world, and the numbers are there. Some countries are making progress, some countries are making regression in this, and most of, I mean, we could see a linkage between the doses of STEM education, I mean, the reduction in these doses with the Arab Spring and with the deteriorations that we are having in the region since 10 years. Also now, COVID-19 has aggravated the situation, and therefore a lot of attention needs to be put there. However, there are some good stories in Kuwait, for example, Qatar and UAE. 70% of university students in the science are women. This is one good thing. They make up only 12% of the workforce. So we have 70% women in STEM in universities, but 12% of them are in the workforce. So still we have achieved some progress in the educational system, but not as good progress in the labor market. Next, please. SDG 17, which talks about energy, the related target in SDG 17 is to increase investment in research and development to enhance the science policy interface for energy. Now, the policy advice of the report is to empower public and private institutions to assess policies and impact and produce the necessary knowledge to change consumption and production patterns. It's very important. I mean, it's looked at the Arab world as most of them are, if not all of them, are consuming societies and consuming economies and consuming countries. So we have to do good policy in the consumption area, including consumption not only of edible goods or water, but also consumption of information, data, education, and knowledge, services, and products. Next, please. For SDG 8, which is about economic growth and employment, the report has noticed weak coherence between economic policies, education, strategies, and the science-industry interface. It is very important, this science-industry interface. We have noticed that huge amounts of R&D money are spent in the academic arena. Lots of money in R&D also is spent on the industrial arena, but there is very little synergy between both agencies. The educational ecosystem has very weak linkage with the industry, and the industry have this mistrust or miscommunication with the academic world. So we have a lot of investment, a lot of effort, a lot of work, but with little impact. The ultimate objective of most professors, university professors, is to get their promotions and to publish. And very few people ask the question, how much of these publications, even in renowned journals, how much of them are in fact ended up in industry or ended up in achieving certain applied goal in the industry or the service sectors. 18% share of youth the 18% share of youth not in employment, education, or training I talked about before, the need is worrying. The strategies for higher education and vocational training are not sufficiently linked to labor and economic policies and do not prioritize the transfer and the localization of knowledge. Let me talk a little bit about this localization of knowledge and localization of technology and localization even of science. We at ESCWA, we differentiate between importing technology and localizing technology, importing technological product and localizing product and so on. So there's, we are pushing in our policy advice and our reports and so on to move from science and technology importation to customization and nationalization and localization. We have introduced a program called NTTO, National Technology Transfer Offices, where we established more than 11 national technology transfer offices in 11 Arab countries. And our ambition is to move a step forward where we basically link these national technology transfer offices into a regional hub and a regional technology transfer center. Next, please. Now, how to accelerate progress in SDG 8? To improve regional ecosystems of knowledge production, research, and innovation through ensuring quality education. I'm sure you can speak a lot more and better than myself in this area. Increase investment in research. And when we say investment, we mean impactful investment in research, because not every investment in research is impactful or effective. Strengthen the links among research centers, establish national and regional funds to encourage innovation and entrepreneurship. In fact, we have noticed that one of the clear hurdles for innovators and startups and entrepreneurs and SMEs is their inability to access funding sources at the national level or regional level. And this lack of funding sources could be the killer of their ambition and a killer of the ideas in this area. Now, enhance the profile of researchers in universities, incentivize high quality research, and promote frequent science. industry dialogue. The problem, one of the problems we noticed is that many of the academic institutions, particularly universities, they have grown in age, and they have great parts of it became bureaucratic and became basically production of education, not paying enough attention to the quality. It's just there's a system of production. We have noticed that many universities, and I'm sure you agree with me, they produce, they graduate students from certain majors and specializations, not noticing the need in the labor market. They're just flooding the market with skills that are no longer needed, simply because we have a resource in a university that is producing such a skill. The next is to facilitate the school to work transition. School to work, there's a weak link between people getting doses of skills and education in universities and getting another kind of training in the workplace. Many universities have in fact made successes in basically dedicating the last semester or the last year of the 4-year bachelor degree, that students basically get skills in the 4th year, not in the university, but rather in a real life workplace. But if you look at the majority of universities, they don't do that. We encourage such school to work transition at the time of the school and at the time of early career. Next, please. Now for SDG 9, which talks about resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation. Science, technology, and innovation policies in the Arab region have generally failed to catalyze knowledge production effectively or add value to promote and service because they focus on developing R&D without taking the business community on board. Many Arab universities are simply not research oriented, they are just teaching oriented. The research activity of teaching staff in public and most private universities is in the range of 5% to 10%. So this is this is a low percentage. Of course, we understand that in developing countries in general, we don't expect this percentage to grow as high as 35% or 50% in European or American universities, but it's important to push into that direction. Next, please. Next, please. Okay. One of the important things is the disconnect between research and development needs. The disconnect between research and development. Compared with the rest of the world, the region has a poor record of association between R&D expenditure and GDP growth. This is something that our researchers have noticed, that there is no correlation between spending on R&D and GDP growth. In this case, if we prove that there's no causal effect between R&D expenditure and GDP growth, then why do it in the first place? I think it's very important that we pay attention to having R&D more impactful and more contributing to GDP growth in countries. Linked to this particular point is the brain drain, because many of the spending on R&D goes to scholarships, sending people to the outside world to get better education and come back. Now we spend on R&D in this case, but many of the people, the students, they stay outside of the Arab countries, and therefore we have spending on R&D, but it has negative effect on GDP. This is very important. Despite promising efforts to boost R&D and innovation in several countries, limitations on academic freedom and fundings is there. I mean, the atmosphere, the general environment or atmosphere where research is produced, applied research or academic research or abstract research is produced, the atmosphere itself, the environment itself need to be looked at, need to be more research friendly, more researcher friendly, and so on. I mean, we see, I hope you agree with me that many of the people, they just, they excel in other environments. Many of the brains, once they are the same brain, the same person, the same skilled person, but once he or she is another environment or another place, they would unleash their motivation and their energy and produce good stuff. And we could see this. I'm sure many of you have examples of this. The current state of education, especially public education, does not serve a transition to innovation. Many people accuse the educational system, especially in schools, that it is counter-innovative, that people basically are there to get routine education. They tend to get, kind of spoon-feeding kind of education. And this is not good because it does not induce innovation. And we believe that innovation is very important for the industry to have a homegrown industry and homegrown production. R&D priorities need to be integrated in educational reform to encourage creativity and innovation. Next, please. What the region can do to accelerate progress on SDG 9. I'm listing several things that the region, the Arab region, the 22 countries can do to have a coherent science, technology, and innovation policy frameworks, like develop a plan of action, identify niche interventions, and so on and so forth. I don't want to read each one of them, but I want to speak something about the South-South cooperation. ESCWA, for example, has established a center in Amman. It's called ESCWA Technology Center, specifically to foster South-South cooperation in the area of science, technology, and innovation. And the national technology transfer offices that I mentioned before, the 11 of them that were established, basically they were a product of this center in Amman. Next, please. Next, I have discussed this slide. Okay, now for SDG 12, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. As I said before, we accuse the Arab world of being a consumption area rather than a production area. It's a market rather than an exporting region. So therefore, it's important to deploy technologies and innovations in order to enhance the consumption patterns and the production patterns to make it more contributing to the economy and to the quality of life of people. Not just, I mean, a mere consumption is not a good thing at all. It's not, it does not sustain anything. It does not sustain the economy or the society. So we have put some suggestions to help countries move away from being consumption economies to production economies through improving knowledge to inform policy and change behavior in line with sustainable consumption and production through strengthening the science policy interface to close the extensive data gaps that hinder informed policy and planning responses, to increase public awareness, education and technical training related to sustainable consumption. The awareness is important. Integrate sustainable development into curricula at all levels, and strengthen the role of local communities in developing recycling and waste policies. Next, please. Now, my favorite is SDG 17, which not too many people pay attention to it. SDG 17 is about strengthening the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnerships for sustainable development. Now, when we speak of sustainable development, in order to be truthful about it and honest about it, regional cooperation is important, as well as global collaboration and cooperation. And this cooperation and collaboration has to have multi-layers. It has to be at the knowledge layer. It has to be at the financial layer. It has to be at the cooperation layer, and so on and so forth. Now, the target 17.8 says that fully operationalize the technology bank and science, technology, and innovation capacity building mechanisms for least developed countries, and enhance the use of enabling technology, in particular information and communication technologies. There was a technology bank which was established in Turkey, in Istanbul, Turkey. It was established about 3 years ago and started to work about 2 years ago. It is meant to service only least developed countries. In the Arab region, there are 4 least developed countries. And this bank basically tends to support these the science, technology, and innovation efforts of these countries by first supporting them as a resource, also by giving them advice to avoid reinventing the wheel and try to synergize the efforts from one country to another in order to, because as you know, in science and technology and innovation, reinventing the wheel is a crime. It shouldn't happen, whether we're talking about these developed countries or developing countries or even developed countries. So cooperation is important. This bank basically provide a platform, a huge platform to induce this collaboration. And Dr. Yousif, I may suggest that you assess the services provided by this bank in your work as ASRIN and perhaps the others as well. Next, please. Now, the following are the key barriers to technology as a means of implementation in the Arab region. Weak absorptive capacity, weak technological infrastructure, regulatory arrangements. Again, this issue of regulatory arrangements is important. We claim at ESCWA that these science and technology advancements are not accompanied by the same level of regulatory support. Lack of enabling environment of science, technology, innovation, and technology transfer. Few incentives for entrepreneurs and small businesses. For example, we could see in some of the Arab countries that entrepreneurs, SMEs, startups, science parks are taxed at the time of the startup, at the infancy stage. They are taxed by the ministries of finance, which is counterintuitive and counterproductive. So these are some of the weaknesses that we could see in the Arab region. Next, please. Now, what the region can do to accelerate progress on SDG 17. Next. First, prioritize and invest in building the absorptive capacity of population to use, adapt, customize, and develop technologies. Absorptive capacity to use, to adapt, to customize, and develop.
Dr. Haidar, I'm sorry, can you have speed a bit?
I'm sorry?
What I mean is that if you can go
faster?
Faster, please, because okay. we still have 2 speakers. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I think I will finish in 2 minutes. So this is important to work on, the pedagogy, the lifelong learning initiatives, the vocational training initiatives, the digitalization of certain public services. Next, please. The next thing that we need to do is to ensure inclusive access to technologies, the regulatory framework that I mentioned. Next, please. To introduce strategies to improve R&D. R&D should be guided by strategies, not like haphazard or sporadic. The budget has to be strategized. The government budget has to be allocated properly for R&D. Improve links between universities, because I'm sure you agree with me, many universities, they just duplicate themselves. Many of the activities happening in universities, they assume that they are the one and only, that there aren't any other efforts. So there's a lot of reinventing the wheel in this area. Encourage private sector contribution to R&D, it's important. Next, please. Facilitate the emergence and establishment of SMEs. I mentioned it, it's important to smartly support SMEs and startups using science and technology. Next, please. Also enhanced North-South cooperation, South-South cooperation, triangular cooperation is important. Enhance access to science, technology, innovation, and enhance knowledge sharing on mutually agreed terms. Let's say also utilize the United Nations system. Let's say the regional commissions such as ESCWA, ITU, UNESCO. There's a lot of specialized agencies in the United Nations that countries can utilize in seeking capacity building, policy support, policy advice, and so on. Fully operationalize the technology bank I mentioned, synergy between STI components, capacity building for least developed countries, and enhance the use of enabling technology, in particular information and communication technologies. Next, please. I am done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Haidar. I'm sorry for pushing to finish. Very interesting, and it's good to know what is going on now, what's happening, and to know the facts that even they are harmful. It's good to know. So thank you for that. And as I said in the introduction, we need to further take the discussion between ESCWA and ASRIN to see how we can go ahead further. Any question? Actually, we have two questions. If we can quickly, Stephanie, you already read the question of Boubacar, so we can take answer them. Go ahead, please.
Sorry, yes, can you hear me? So the question from Dr. Barry was about the assessment of the impact of the several projects, AfricaConnect, UNICEF that started almost 20 years ago. So the assessment of the impact, the lessons learned, the things to improve. Okay, this is not, and I don't want to take the time of the other speakers, so it's not, they are not easy questions to answer. What I would like to say is that through support to the NRENs in Africa, what we have seen, you cannot compare the countries, but especially in landlocked country, we've seen that it contributed to significantly reduce the cost of connectivity. The model of having NREN arguing for the public good nature of connectivity for research education nature has moved the lines. And in some country where the tariffs were very high, we managed to, the partner managed to have very significant economies of scale. So it is a breakthrough, but at the same time, sometimes means that the take-home market then align downwards, decrease the price, which benefits the whole society. So it's very good in itself, but it then undermines the very NREN sustainability. They managed to achieve a significant result, but which calls into question their own sustainability. So that's an impact we've seen, decrease in the price, as I said, benefiting all. We've seen also that it contributes to enhance research collaboration and access to learning and teaching resources elsewhere. But here again, we would need now to go a bit further and measure, has the African research outputs increased? Has the African been able to participate in journal and publication? Has the better digital tools translated in such an increase of the research contribution for the African researcher? Has this translated into more local content? I heard home ground earlier. That's very true. Has the digital tools and the fact that such users community are better equipped digitally, are they more able to produce local content, which is highly needed? So that's what we also need to measure. So I have almost more questions than answers for Dr. Barry. The lessons learned from the past phases, and I know Dr. Barry is fully aware, is that we've seen that it's not enough to work with NREN and to hope that NREN can lease connectivity and deploy tools. We've seen that in many countries, it doesn't work like that. In many countries, it requires working across the board with authorities, governments, regulatory authorities, telecom operators. It requires to bring around the table all the stakeholders to make them understand each stakeholder having its own interest to look after, but how can we work together to deliver adequate digital tools that are affordable for the research and education users, that the private sector can do what they're here for, to provide the services and to get paid for that. Can the regulatory ensure that the environment is conducive, follows the rules, but is conducive for such activities? So one of the main lessons learned is that it's not enough to just look at connectivity. It requires to have a horizontal approach. Things to improve in the future, maybe it's a question I always have that always lingers in my mind. Of course, we understand that here we're tackling the research education communities, but can countries like African countries, which have limited means, can they afford to look at the digital needs of research education communities apart from the other public sectors? Shouldn't it be another model by which we look also at, e-governance, e-health at large? I know in Europe, research and education, NRENs and the Pan-European network, GIGA, are a very strong role to play. But maybe we're in a situation where we can afford to have a specific focus on that. Maybe in African countries in particular, or in countries where there are less means, we should have a more an approach that looks beyond research education network. And the last point for me, maybe things to improve, and I also resonate with the last presentation that was made. Is the link with innovation strong enough? Are we enough facilitating innovation, or are we stopping at delivering tools with the hope that research leads naturally to innovation? I think that should be maybe better reflected in the coming years. Thank you. I hope this answered the question, and sorry for raising more questions than I answered.
Thank you. Actually, I'm afraid that we are blocking the next two speakers more than planned. So if you very quickly, Dr. Haidar, answer the question of Dr. Barry, which is, if you have entered the question, it's about.
Yeah.
If you read it, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have read the question, which is why female students are in more than 50% in many Arab universities, but their share in the labor market is not as high. So I think this is a phenomenon that needs to be studied very well. My personal advice in this area is that we can do it either in the push way or on the pull way. We can push the labor market to take more women in the labor force, especially those who are having doses of STEM, or we can do it on the pull way, which means that we incentivize the labor market and the private sector to benefit from hiring female or women graduates. In my judgment, the pull way is more important. We can incentivize, we can put some tax breaks, we can put some smart ways to so that the labor market will absorb more women in the labor force.
Great. So not to keep the other speakers. I'm sorry, Nermeen and Gergana, for taking much time before your interventions and so on. Let me welcome Nermeen Saadani. She is the regional vice president for the MENA region at the Internet Society. We are proud with our relation with ISOC, and I will leave the floor to her to talk about the MENA region and e-learning outreach, in addition to what we have been achieving in the last 2 weeks with ISOC. So, Nermeen, sorry, and please, you can start your presentation.
Thank you so much, Yousif, and no problem at all. I totally appreciate the time, and I think for the sake of the discussion, let me jump into slide number 8 at my presentation so that we don't take much of the time and go into the core of the discussions right away. So we are the Internet Society, as most probably you all know, that we are a non-profit organization technology, from the technical side of the internet at large, and we oversee the standard of the internet and as well the policies related to the governance of the internet. What we have been looking at or working closely at during 2020 is that we focused on about 8 projects, dividing them between what we call internet growth and internet strength. So internet growth will be more, focusing more on the infrastructure layer of the internet and how to enhance this layer and make it more affordable and more accessible to everyone. And for the internet strength, we look at the regulatory part of how to regulate the internet and how to use the open standard and how to better enhance the encryption where you are for the users and for the users of the internet in general, and the manners which is the routing security and the DNSSEC and so on and so forth. And from that, from those projects, actually, our work took place in 2020 for the MENA region, where we focused on a number of projects, part from the infrastructure, part from the internet growth part, and part from the internet strength part. So we work with the internet way of networking for the regulation of the internet, the competition, the best regulatory environment where the internet can flourish and can be a medium for entrepreneurs and small and medium enterprises to grow and for the youth to be engaged and so on, as well for the manners to have a better securing routing techniques. And this is where our cooperation will be partially focusing at with the ASRAN group as well, and the infrastructure where the internet exchange points and community network in general could be built and could be enhanced in our region so that people in rural areas can have accessibility to the internet, especially after the COVID pandemic has invaded the globe, I would say, and locked everyone down. I think internet has been and will remain for a while the medium for interaction and a way of living, if I may call it as such. We believe in short, we believe that capacity building will remain a key component for development, especially in our region, as well as for the African region. MENA is still thirsty to learn more, especially that digital transformation is taking place very strongly in every country in the region. And still we don't have maybe the right capacities or the enough capacities to grasp what the information is providing. This is why we are embedding the capacity building and capacity building programs in all the work that we are doing within the projects in the region, so that we are very practical, very down to earth, and we can achieve real objectives on the ground or real targets on the ground. We don't just, sign an MOU for nothing. As you have seen, Yousif, we have started the implementation of our MOU that we celebrated the signature for it just last Friday, but we have been implementing what we have been discussing maybe across the 2020. And we will be continuing doing this as well in 2021. And we will be launching during the beginning of the year what we call Learning at ISO, which is a learning leader for the internet ecosystem. The function will be to build, promote, and defend a stronger internet, scaling up how to use the internet in the best possible way through providing a specialized training program that could help everyone of every stakeholder. So policymakers, technicians, experts from the civil society, or even the academia could all be benefiting from these programs that we will be launching over the internet very soon over our portal. Unlock the potential of the internet technology, as I'm saying, for the policy and the business and the leaders across. Provide supporting learning initiatives to the projects themselves. So for example, community network is something that may be very new to our region, but could be a very helpful or catalyst for growing the internet in the MENA region. So we will be providing technical capacity building programs to the experts in the regions to know how to better use or utilize the community network, for example. And we will be developing and promoting the learning at the ISOC brand in both languages as much as possible, English and Arabic as well, so that we can serve those who would not feel comfortable learning in English. Therefore, the targeted programs and the work stream will be classified as the slide in front of us. So we will have projects, we will have community engagement. So with the people in general, with the experts, with people who could be interested in internet and our chapters. As you know, we have chapters as well, with external engagements where we foster cooperation and collaboration with institutional relation with regional organizations, partnership, fellowships, and so on. And with the Internet Society Foundation, where we can provide some grants for those who could be interested in our training, so that it could be affordable and maybe free of charge if we can be able to find good funds for this as well. In specific, our region will be focusing on those projects on the very left of the slide. So the InfraDevCom, this is the basic infrastructure layer of the internet. So as I mentioned earlier, internet exchange points and community network. In addition as well for the manners, which is the routing security and the main focus of our cooperation with the ASRN. As well, we will be focusing on measuring the internet. We believe that measuring the internet is something very important, especially a part of the portal that we have launched earlier this month. Will be targeting not only policymakers and decision makers, but as well journalists and civil society and communities where the internet is being a vivid part of their lives as well. And lastly, we will be focusing on the IWN and actually encryption. I'm sorry for the typo down here. And we will be sharing information or programs that will tackle technical skills connectivity, knowledge exchange, and policy information, as well as advocacy, as we believe these are cornerstones to the capacity building programs that we can provide. And finally, on my last slide will be to just highlight quickly our MOU with ASRN, which has been signed and celebrated just last Friday. And within this MOU, we'll be cooperating on organizing training activities on some technical topics such as GNSEC, BGP and routing security, establishing and running the XP in the best possible way, network time security, manners cooperation or collaboration on manners adoption, manners is the routing security that I believe every network in the region should be following the manners guidelines. It's very, very useful tool for securing your routing system, and help developing ASRN through collaborating in communication with the NRNs and local governments. I will stop here and thank you everyone, and I'm ready to take questions maybe after the last speaker. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Let's have the questions after the last speaker to make use of our time. But I also share the news that we have signed the MOU with ISOC last Friday, and glad with our collaboration with ISOC, and hope we have further collaboration with others. The other thing that I want to thank ISOC actually for their continuously sponsored our events, including this event. They have put some sponsorship, and they also sponsored a technical workshop which will be taking place on Thursday this week through providing trainers and so on. To make sure that I'm sorry, Gergana, you are the last one, but not the least. So let's go to your presentation directly. Gergana is, I think all of you know her. She joined our event in Abu Dhabi last year, and before usually we have sponsorship and participation in our event for the last 10 years from RIPE NCC. So let me thank Gergana and the team of RIPE NCC, and invite Gergana to give her the floor to speak.
Thank you very much, Yousif. I hope you can see the slides on the screen.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, so let me move on. My name is Gergana Petrova. I work at RIPE NCC. For those of you who don't know me, I've been with the organization for the past 8 years. I work at the external relations team. So what I'm going to do today quickly, I'm going to give you a short update on the presentation that I gave last year. First of all, for those of you who are not really familiar with RIPE NCC, I'm going to spend 3 slides to tell you who we are and what we do. So RIPE NCC is a regional internet registry, or RIR for short. There are 5 of those in the world. On the right-hand side, you can see their logos. So what an RIR does, they are responsible for their own service region, so to say, or that is their distinct territory in which they operate. Our primary role is to register internet number resources. Internet number resources, those are IP addresses, either version 4, which is the currently mostly widely used in the world, or the newer version, which is IPv6, which we're trying to encourage everyone to switch to. The second type of number resources, those autonomous system numbers. And so we distribute those 2 types of resources to our members to help network operators run their networks. When we distribute the resources, the rules we follow when distributing them are set by the RIPE community. The RIPE community, this is not an organization. This is basically a conglomeration of people that have interest in guiding how internet resources are distributed and creating policies to do so. To join the RIPE community, you don't need to have certain specific educational background. You don't need to have a certain profession or be working at a certain organization. All you have to do in order to participate is join the mailing list. The mailing lists that we have on our website are structured in different topic areas that we call working groups. So we have working groups on address policy, we have working groups on DNS, IoT, open source, measurement and analysis, anti-abuse, quite a lot. So if you are interested in joining the discussion or setting up policies in a certain area, I'd encourage you to go on our website and maybe check out the archives of the mailing list. The archives are available to the public, so anybody can just go on the website and check them out. Here's a map of where the 5 RIRs are set up. So you can see that ARIN is responsible to service North America, LACNIC for Latin America, AFRINIC for Africa, APNIC for Southeast Asia and Oceania, and then RIPE NCCs for Europe, the Middle East, and parts of Central Asia. So each of those 5 RIRs, again, have their own communities that gather together and are responsible to set up the policies. And then the specific organization is responsible to implement those policies. How does that work? So IANA, which is the Internet Assigned Numbers Authority, have all the unallocated internet resources. So they have all the unallocated IP addresses and ASN numbers. They gave large chunks of those to the 5 regional internet registries, so to us. Then we distribute those further down to our members. Our members, those are ISPs, telcos, but can really be any organization that would like to run their own network. So very often those are also, our members are universities, government agencies, and in recent years we have seen an increase in other types of critical organizations, such as hospitals, airports, banks. Once our members get the resources, in the case of an ISP, for example, or telco, they can further reallocate them to their end customers. So that can be, for example, business organizations, anybody in the industry, or individual customers, so people. In addition to distributing these blocks of numbers, we also maintain a registry that says who has which number so that there's no mix-up. Part of this registry is public, so if you go on our website, you can also see it. In addition to that, we do quite a lot of other technical coordination. So as I already mentioned, we run and moderate the mailing list. We also organize several in-person meetings. That is pre-COVID. Now we have them all virtual. So those meetings facilitate the creation of the policies I mentioned previously. We also provide various other services that benefit the development of the internet. So for example, we operate one of the root zone servers, the K-root. In addition to that, we run a huge measurement network that a lot of researchers that are doing research on networks use in order to basically feed their data sets and do research. That network is called RIPE Atlas. I spoke at length about it during my presentation last time. So today I'm just going to quickly mention it, that it's there. So what I want to talk to you about a little bit more today is the situation with the IP version 4 address pool. Last year, you might remember my presentation was just a month after 25th of November. So what happened on that day is we ran out of unallocated IP version 4 address pool. So just on the slide, the unallocated address pool, that is the light blue that you see on the screen. So you see around December, it kind of like hit the bottom line. So what happened at that point, we basically, RIPE NCC ran out of version 4 addresses, IP addresses to give to our members. You can see that since then, there is a little bit of light blue emerging towards the bottom. Those are recovered addresses. When we recover addresses, that is basically, for example, when a member discontinues their membership, or when a member goes bankrupt, or when a member decides, I don't need these addresses, and they voluntarily return them to us. As you can see on the graph, those are very, very little amounts. It's definitely not enough to sustain, to have a sustainable growth. So as of 25th of November last year, a new policy came into effect that was agreed by the RIPE community, after which from the recovered pool of addresses, we can only give to new members who have never received an allocation before. So for those who are not very technical of you, a /24 allocation, those are 256 addresses. So we can give only this much addresses to new members, and we cannot give any IP version 4 addresses to members who have already received addresses from us. So that is the situation. What can a network operator do? For example, if they need version 4 addresses, one of the options is to go to the IP version 4 transfer market. RIPE NCC does not have any role in this. I'm just displaying the different alternatives to you. So those are figures that I have taken from reports of the brokers that facilitate those deals, where you can see the price development of a single IP version 4 address on the transfer market. You can see it fluctuates between $22 to $30 US per address. That depends a little bit on the size of the block. So if you're buying very large blocks, the price is a little bit less. What else you can see is that the price is continuously growing for the past years, but also in 2020, it has been growing. Brokers also report an increase of demand. However, paradoxically, even though that there are more transfers happening, there are relatively less addresses actually changing hands. They explain this that with the fact that big blocks are becoming increasingly scarce. So basically people are trading very small amounts of version 4 on the market. So that's the situation with the transfer market. Sounds a little bit expensive, but if you really need it, it is still an option. A little overview of transfers happening in the Gulf region. So you can see where addresses come from and where they went. You can see that quite a lot of addresses went from Romania and the United States to Saudi Arabia, but in general, the Gulf countries are on the right-hand side, meaning that they are the ones buying the version 4 addresses. What else you can do if you don't want to spend money on the transfer market? You can do network address translation. I'm not going to go into details into the technology. The idea, the basic idea is that as a network operator, you get one public IP address and you give it to multiple of your customers. In order to keep track which customer has which connection, you assign each customer a private number that you know, but the rest of the world doesn't. It is kind of common amongst network operators to do that. It is cheaper, slightly cheaper than buying on the transfer market. However, it has certain downsides. For the customer, it has the downside that publicly, they have the same address as many other people. As you can see in the bullet points, that breaks the openness of the internet. It limits permissionless innovation. It's not great for researchers either. But for operators, it's also not ideal because it can work well on a smaller network, but the more customers you have, the more you expand your network, the more complicated it becomes to manage the private numbers that you assign your customers. In addition to managing it, you also need to keep a lot of logs, a lot of information that you need for law enforcement purposes, because depending on the regulation from each country, you have to keep connection data on file for a certain amount of months, be it 6 months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years in some countries. And so keeping this huge amount of data can also get complicated, but also expensive. And then the third option is to transition to IP version 6. On the file, on the slide in front of you, you can see the transition rates. At the moment, India is the leader in the world with 73% deployment. There are several other countries in Southeast Asia that are doing really well. In Europe, that's Belgium. In the Middle East, there are some countries that are doing a lot better than others. So that's, for example, the Emirates and Saudi Arabia are doing well. Here you can see I have selected the four countries with the largest deployment. So on the left side, you can see the Emirates, around 30% deployment. And what is curious is that both the Emirates and Oman, you can see that in March, around the time when the COVID crisis arose, there is a downward trend. So basically that means that as operators struggle to get more connectivity because we needed more connectivity in the region, they basically added more IP version 4 connectivity, which reduced the percentage of IP version 6. For Saudi Arabia, which is currently about 25%, and also for Kuwait, which is around 9%, we see that COVID didn't have that negative impact. So actually, operators kept on adding IP version 6 connections. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about is routing security. The presenter before me also mentioned it, and it is a very relevant topic because not just because it is so often that network operators can make an honest mistake, write type 2 instead of 3 or the other way around, but also with the scarcity that I was talking about of IP version 4. There have been some cases of attempted hijacks of addresses, people announcing resources that they don't have. And so I would like to talk to you a little bit about a security framework that can help network operators make more informed, more secure decisions. We have called this the Resource Public Key Infrastructure. For short, that's RPKI. In a nutshell, what this is, it ties an IP address or an ASN number to a public key of their rightful holder. So basically, you as the holder of a certain resource, you say that ASN X is authorized to announce my prefix, and then you sign it. So this basically gives a lot more security for network operators to trust a certain announcement. The adoption of RPKI has been growing a lot. So this is actually not a very new project. It's been around for more than 10 years. but it really took off in the last maybe 2. You can see that in the RIPE NCC service region, there are nearly 14,000 certificates. And in the across the globe, there also have been growing a lot in the past 2 years. This is how it looks around the world. There are several countries, also in the Middle East and around Middle East, that are doing really well with deployment. And in specific, in the Gulf region, you can see, for example, Oman and Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq are doing quite well with having new certificates. I would like to encourage you to look into this. I will share in the chat a link to a really nice tutorial of how to implement this technology. Speaking of online tutorials, I'd like to tell you a little bit about online learning. For those of you who attended last year's presentation, you already know about the RIPE Academy. You can see the URL on the slide. We offer some courses there for local internet registry, the RIPE database, IP version 6, where you can enroll, take the course for free, you can get a certificate. We also have several 1-hour webinars that are on the link below. I'm assuming that you're going to make the slides available after the presentation, so you can check out the link then. And last year I also mentioned the certified professionals, but back then we were not ready with the project. Now we are. We have 2 courses, so IP version 6 fundamentals and the RIPE database associate courses, for which you can study the course and then later on take an exam and get a certificate for that. Since we have recently launched this program, we are making free vouchers available for it until March 2021. So if you're interested in a free voucher, please email exams@ripe.net. And please mention that if you're from a university or a research institution, it will definitely help. So please mention that in your email. The very last thing I want to mention, and thanks for staying with me for so long. This week we launched a country report focusing on the Gulf countries. We have launched several country reports in the past. One of them was centering on Saudi Arabian specific. Now we launched a report on an entire region where we compare the technical landscape in several countries with one another. And we have used our data to do so. I would encourage you, if you have a little bit of time, to go on the link and check it out. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you for listening, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you all. Any question? Any question from the participants? I'm sorry for taking the session longer than planned, but actually everyone spoke. I couldn't stop because, but I sorry I was rude with Dr. Haidar to try to make it on time, but by all means everything was very interesting, and I definitely will follow up with Asr will follow up with you all on what can we do together. I'm not sure if this is a question or a comment. Shukri saying question, I think. I couldn't see your question, Shukri. Is it, where is it? Yeah, that open. I can't see the question. Yeah, it is here. Any collaboration? That's the question to, I think, to ISOC. Any collaboration between ISOC and ASREN on open access issues?
Actually, I did reply in written format, but for the time being, no, the MOU doesn't really include the direct mention for open access cooperation, but that's an issue that we can take together with the ASREN group in light of the project that we have for the open source access. So it could be something that we can consider in 2021. Thank you.
Okay, that's perfect. If any speaker likes to have to say any final word, you are welcome.
Yes, if I may, in 30 seconds, Dr. Yousif, I think now last week I have the chance to speak to some policymakers in an Arab government, and regarding this pandemic and the online education and the affordability of the internet to students and families and poor families. This is an issue which is on the table, and it seems that there is no policy that the world has agreed on or support that governments can provide to minimize the impact, because in the past we used to look into some connectivity issues and some broadband issues and speed issues with regards to receiving online education at home. But now, since many students have to be, let's say, consuming the internet at the same time in the household, then the price and the broadband price is higher to the household. And therefore, this is becoming an issue that I think it needs to be addressed. I know it's perhaps beyond the mandate of this meeting, but I think it's important to keep it in mind when we develop our policy support and policy advice to stakeholders. Thank you.
Agree. That's perfect. I think we have a meeting in less than 7 minutes. So I apologize again for making the session longer, but it was very fruitful. It is recorded. It will be shared. All the presentations also are already shared by all, and you will hear from us about the outcome of this conference. And really, I would like to thank you and apologize on behalf of Dr. Hunaiti and Dr. Adel, because they said that they have to leave. So I would like to thank them again. They will see the recording, hopefully. So thank you all. Very good session. Let's build on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Yousif. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting us.
Goodbye.
Have a nice day, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.